Hi everybody, I am Salavalo and I have been to every single country in the world, every single one of them, and today I am going to take you through my 3 favorite countries in Europe. And this list is purely from my personal point of view. I would change it probably if I did it tomorrow or if I go to another trip, but I kind of like racked my brain. I went through all of the memories that I had, and I decided to sit down and think about what are the 3 places that I think are the best in Europe, and I wanted to take you through those today and hopefully kind of like open your eyes to like cool new places to go visit and share some of the experiences that I had in these really, really awesome countries. So the first country that I am going to include in the best countries in Europe is Austria. Austria doesn't always appear on that many lists when people think of European countries. Usually we think Italy, Spain, Portugal, France, UK, Germany, etc. But Austria, and especially Vienna and the Alps region and Salzburg and all over Austria, is really kind of has all of the best parts of all of those other Western European countries, but also has more of like a Central European vibe to it that I think is really exciting because it's slightly more different than what we often like think about as Europe. And so having that kind of difference when you're in the country is what really is exciting about travel. So in Austria, you get all of the beautiful mountains and the colorful plains and the ski lodges and everything that you would get in Switzerland, in northern Italy, in Bavaria, etc. You also get the really hearty food, lots of meat, lots of stews, lots of potatoes, kind of like in Germany as well. And so it's just this like very like quintessentially European country, but I feel like it's not thought of in that way always. Also, Vienna is probably the most beautiful capital in Europe. I spent New Year's of 2013 into 2014 in Vienna with 2 of my friends from boarding school, and we just walked all around on the streets the whole night. And right at midnight, when there was a countdown in one of the main squares, everybody just started doing the Viennese waltz together, and like just like random old women came up and grabbed us and we waltzed with them throughout the streets. And it was just such a fun like party, and I really loved my time there. I also went a second time to Austria for work. My work has its own resort in Austria, like in the Alps region. So that was really exciting to like be doing work and to be doing a training in this gorgeous mountain landscape. And I've been a 3rd time to Austria. I think just like I was doing a road trip in Czech Republic, crossing out of Slovakia and into Czech Republic, Czechia. I was trying to like go on just like random roads, like not really looking at a map, just kind of meandering around for a day. And I randomly went into Austria and I like saw the sign saying welcome to Austria, and I was kind of thrown because I didn't realize that I was that close to the border. So welcome to Austria. Because of a route mix-up, I accidentally am doing a circle that I didn't expect to do, and it's actually bringing me into Austria. So there's gonna be 4 countries in this quick 72-hour trip through Central Europe, but I'm actually only gonna be in Austria for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So I'm gonna go in and then go out at the next border to get back into Czech Republic. But that's not like a full experience in Austria, but wanted to include Austria as one of the best countries in Europe because I think it combines a lot of the best parts of a lot of other countries, but isn't always thought of and isn't always put on these kinds of lists. Number 2 in the best countries in Europe is another one that I don't think people would think about that much, but anyone who has gone definitely knows what I'm talking about, and that is tiny Montenegro. So I've been twice to Montenegro, and both trips were very, very different, but both trips were amazing. The first time that I went to Montenegro was in 2013. I was doing this road trip through the Balkans, and then I went all through the coast of Montenegro in Kotor and Budva and Bar and Trvat, I think, and all of these places were just gorgeous, ancient, fortified cities with these cliffs going down into the ocean, or the Adriatic Sea, this like blue, amazing water. I was alone and it was just so nice to like be in this beautiful place, like walking in these old cities, and it's just like a gorgeous place on the ocean and really getting a little bit increasingly touristy. I really find it very creepy to be here. It's just like a straight drop, and that's the only thing that's like protecting us. But you can't deny how gorgeous it is. But a lot less like known than other parts of Europe. So I feel like there's a lot of excitement always for these kind of like Mediterranean or Adriatic coast places in Europe. So people go to like Ibiza and south of Spain and south of France and all these islands in Italy and Greece. But you have a lot of these other towns, also on the coast there, as well as in North Africa, that I think are just as beautiful and a lot less people and a totally different history that you might not know. And I think that's just as an exciting of a way to see it. The second time that I went to Montenegro, I rented a car. I arrived at night in the capital, Podgorica, and I drove around the mountains to Kolasin, this small little like mountainy town. I am in Kolasin, Montenegro, and I'm about to start a big road trip. I am just gonna drive all through these gorgeous, gorgeous places. I stayed in this hotel that was basically like a log cabin house, and like the room was all wooden, and I like went in the sauna and just like relaxed, and it was like freezing, but it was so nice. And it was off season. It was like right as winter was ending. I think it was like March or April. And so the snow was starting to melt. There weren't that many people around, and it was just amazing. And the next day I drove from Kolasin into the Dermators, and I went to this black lake, which was stunning. Behind me is the Black Lake. Seems to be a bit low, but it's beautiful nonetheless. Mountains reflecting down in there. Really love being in nature. That's one of the best things about Europe. So many forests. It's perfect time of year, late April. It's like chilly, still some snow up on the mountains, but it's no jacket needed or anything like that. Montenegro, continuing to surprise. And on these like really, really narrow mountain roads that had the ice falling on them, that was really scary. This has got to be one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. Looking down into this valley with that little river there. I drove most of the way, but then half the road got icy. So it didn't seem very safe to keep going. And like my heart is beating because the road was so short, or so narrow. Well, now it's not, but there's a couple parts where there's ice on half the road. It's really scary. Probably the scariest driving I've ever done. But I love like going on these small dirt roads, like just taking random streets and seeing where I end up. And then the next day I was back in Podgorica. I didn't do much. I got like a hotel that was like right on the main square, and I like went outside while everybody was just like celebrating the weekend. And it was just kind of like a small, nice little town. And just the whole trip, I was blown away by all of this beauty that I had never like knew existed. And so Montenegro really blew me away. And so I think it's one of the best countries in Europe. The third country that I think is the best in Europe, and I only recently actually kind of thought this, is Poland. And today when I was looking at the map of Europe and thinking about all of my experiences, and I was thinking about where are the places that I've had multiple good experiences, the places that really blew me away. And I've been to Poland 3 times, I think, and it's hard. Like I've tried, like I normally have a really bad memory, but my travel memory is actually pretty good. So I've been to Poland 3 times. Once I went to Warsaw when I was in Berlin. It's like pretty close, like a few hour train ride. Warsaw was like fine, but like a big, interesting city. Of course, there's like that famous like big Soviet building that everyone jokes is like left behind as like a reminder. But that's kind of what's interesting about Poland, is that similar to what I was saying in Austria, but you get this combination of a lot of recent geopolitical battles between the East and the West, but you also have a lot of like ancient history of the Poles and what has happened kind of in that broader area. So it's really like a fascinating part of Europe to learn about the history, and also a place that is less known to us and combines that really beautiful like 1800s European vibes with the, you know, like the Soviet times, and now with like the modern European EU kind of energy, which is really exciting. The second time that I went to Poland, I also was starting in Berlin, and I went all the way to the east to Białystok and to the forest that Poland shares with Belarus. And that was a really beautiful, like completely different part. And even just the train ride, like going from the cities and all these rural areas was really interesting. And in Białystok and in the small town that's closer to the border, I like rented a bike and I like rode all around. And that was also really beautiful. There's lots of like lakes around there, the oldest forest in Europe. And so it was a beautiful kind of like perfect way to get into nature. And that was really also a nice experience. The third time that I went to Poland was 2 years ago. And I started in Katowice, is that how you pronounce it? And I rented a car, as I tend to do, and I drove to Auschwitz the day that I arrived.
I just finished my visit to Auschwitz and Birkenau, which is right there. It was a really intense experience. I think even before I went, I was having like a visceral reaction to it. Like I didn't want to eat. I remember like when I arrived at first, like I didn't want to smell anything because I was kind of afraid that if I did, then that would mean kind of like that I was there. And I think it's complicated to be able to really comprehend the reality of a place like that. I mean, I've read about it so much and studied it in school, but to actually be there and to see stuff, you know, I was afraid to even to touch anything or get close because like it's just, you can't fathom it being real, and then being there, it is so real. So I kind of tried to dissociate a little bit subconsciously.
Because I'm German and I, you know, grew up hearing stories of the war, you know, from a first person point of view through my grandmother and her family. And it was a really like intense experience for me and for anybody obviously going there. And it was also a really sensory experience because it's just like unbelievable what like humanity can do, and to see that, and also to something that I've researched so much about and learned so much about in so many different ways and has affected the world in such a significant way. And then to be there in person, I remember not wanting to touch anything or smell anything because it just, that would make it too real. I actually have a whole video about right after I got out of the memorial, I filmed my reactions. That's already posted, but that was, you know, kind of like really meaningful to experience. And then I drove out and went to like Slovakia and stuff. And then I came back. I actually went to visit Auschwitz a second time just because I needed like another, like some more time there. So I went back a few days later, gave the card in Katowice, and I went to Krakow. And Krakow really surprised me. And anybody who like knows Poland well will be like, duh, but it's like the cultural capital of the country. I wasn't fully aware of that. And so it was just like blown away. I went to this like chocolate factory. I went in the old town and walked around. I saw some like the gorgeous churches, and it's just one of these like perfect, kind of like I was saying with Vienna, it's just one of these like perfect European cities. And I really enjoyed it. And then I flew out. So 3 times in Poland, really enjoyed each time. And I'm sure there's like 1,000 other things that I could do there. And I love places that are like that and full of surprises and not what you would normally expect or try to go to. So those are my top 3 best countries in Europe. However, I have to have 2 disclaimers, which is because I am German and Italian, obviously those are really my favorite places in Europe. I've been to each of them half a dozen or more times. I go often to see family. I go often just for personal time. I've also been to each for work, you know, so it's the best food, in my opinion, the best people, where I'm happiest, etc. in Europe is definitely Italy and Germany. But because I have talked about them in so many other videos and in posts and different things. I thought it would be more fun to focus on a few others. I hope that this makes you see Europe in a little bit different way, that it talked about some places you might not have thought about going, that really are the best places to go and experience Europe. So please do like the video, comment down below, ask me any questions. I'm always happy to answer them. And I hope that everybody will be traveling safe. Thank you.